Hello, everybody. Welcome to Highway of the Hidden. I'm your host, Polar Bear. And on tonight's episode, we've got a very special guest all the way from Ireland, Mr. Anthony Kerrigan. He is an author, vodcast host, public speaker, paranormal documentary producer, and a member of the psycho research group GhostÉire. Mr. Anthony, how you doing tonight, brother?
Thank you, Brett. Thank you for having me on your show there. Thank you for anybody that's going to be watching afterwards there. Hope, yeah, it's great to be talking to you.
Yes, sir. It's great to have you on. It's an honor, man. It really is. All the way from Ireland, you came on the show. You're willing to give old Highway and old Polar Bear a chance, and I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I know it's we're all here the same. We're born the same way, sort of. We're raised the same way. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. After a few technical difficulties, hopefully we can get this one to kind of push on through, but we'll see. So like before, what got you into this? What got you into the paranormal? What got you going? What was like, man, this is it. This is what I want to do.
Okay, so I suppose the first thing was probably my father. That is from Galway, from the west of Ireland. He used to tell me stories, ghost stories, when I was a young child. So he used to tell me stories of the banshee, the fairy, also tales of the headless horseman. So I suppose from there in my childhood, then I grew up having that fascination with the paranormal, watching shows like The Outer Limits and The X-Files. Well, I suppose it really changed for me in 1993. I watched a show called Ghost Watch, which was aired on Halloween on the BBC in England. It was hosted by Michael Parkinson and co-hosts Sarah Green and Craig Charles. And I think it was Sarah Green's husband as well. I forget his name there. But it was uh, put through the media that this was a live broadcast, which it wasn't. It wasn't real at all. But the tale was to do about two girls and a mother living in a house in England and were visited by this poltergeist. Now, I forget the name of the poltergeist there, but it scared the hell out of me. Somebody actually in the one of the viewers actually committed suicide watching the show because they thought it was real, and it got a load of backlash. Ghostwatch went on to be probably one of the first shows that probably uh, uh, programs like Most Haunted uh, looked at and thought, "Oh, we could do this for real on the paranormal front." I suppose watching shows like Most Haunted and Ghost Hunters really piqued my interest in the early 2000s. My rugby career, to be a professional rugby player, didn't take off. So I sought another career and that was the paranormal. So we set up the team GhostÉire in 2009, and we went from, first of all, probably investigating reports and accounts of people seeing ghosts and all that. But we've sort of moved on to more with psi, which is like ESP, electrosexual perception, psychokinesis, that kind of way. So we're more to do the psycho research side of it, our own minds, uh, how we see things or sense things, perceive things in our own environment. So yeah, we've been going for 16 years now, and as you touched on about things that I do, broadcasting, author, public speaker, paranormal documentary producer, touch on all kind of things, small kind of things there. But my hope that I'm seen and armed, that I help other teams to get them out on, but show them what they do and highlight their efforts they do to find what is out there or what is in here as well.
Right. 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 So what being, into all that and being in Ireland, which has a lot of haunted history and really rich history and stuff like that. What are some of like the main big places that you visited that you're like, man, 100% this is haunted?
I suppose haunted. Most is There's a few great investigations we've been on where we found evidence to support history, which kind of they've been great investigations. Probably the research afterwards, but to do with hauntings, as in scary, probably one of them is probably Ross Castle in County Meath. There's a story about a black baron, reportedly that haunts the place. There's a tale of a woman, I forget her name now, who died on a lake with her partner. Well, she was not supposed to be with this partner because we're two warring septs or clans as are otherwise known. but she's supposed to haunt the area. But you got the sense in this castle that you were always being watched. We were there for a radio Halloween show, and I don't know if it was real. I don't know. It could have been faked. It could have been real as well. A glass vase from behind me fell to the floor. Now, whether that was, my back turned, I don't know if this was real or not real. But anyway, apart from that, there's been loads of teams, loads of people that have stayed there because it's open as a B&B for people to come and visit and stay there. But there's a lot of accounts of ghostly activity in that place. Voices being caught, loads of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if the vase flying across the room was real. And that's one place in Ireland which is one of the places that we visited that has a lot of spooky phenomena.
Right. You touched on the Banshee a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the Banshee is a very well-known fairy. She's supposed to haunt so kind of like the Grim Reaper, the Irish equivalent of the Grim Reaper. She's supposed to haunt or visit people of Morrison heritage. That would be the first people that came over from Iberia and modern day Portugal, over the first settlement that came over from Ireland. So it would be people mostly from that kind of race that have the O or the Mac as the prefix in their surname. So she said to visit people in those that have those prefixes in their name. The first account, I think, was a lady Forshaw, and I think it was to do with Bunratty Castle in County Clare. She said that's the first written account. She said to have seen the Banshee, and she was supposed to be like a ghastly-looking woman wearing white, pale complexion. And I suppose since then, that was in the 1600s, so it's not that really that far. Only about the last 400 years.
Yeah,
that was written. But yes, so there's accounts of the Banshee in Ireland, but there's also you don't have to be. I suppose there could be accounts of the Banshee in England as well. There probably is cases in America as well, because it's supposed to be people of that race of heritage that she visits. Now, it's not, supposedly it's not a sign that it's a forewarning that somebody's going to die, not personally the person that sees her. It could be somebody related to that person that had seen her. Then again, people might hear sounds, I suppose, in an environment. When you look at that, the skeptical kind of thing of the Banshee, you could relate to sounds that people aren't used to. So they might hear the Banshee, some people might hear it. But quite common in Ireland as well as the fox. So the sounds of the foxes sniggering.
Wow.
Foxes are known to cause that kind of sound phenomena. Even badgers, guttural, devilish kind of sounds in the forest. So people might relate to that if they've heard a Banshee out and about near ruined buildings and all that, or in the countryside, But the Banshee's a very interesting fairy.
It definitely is. I know. I haven't heard anything about that, but that's pretty. I didn't know that. Like it had to do with like your heritage. If you're born into that, and then it would follow your family, sort of like so everyone could have like a family Banshee. Man, that's pretty creepy. The first time I ever heard it was Supernatural, the show. Did you ever watch that one? That was the first time I heard of one.
Supernatural. I haven't watched the Supernatural there. I haven't watched it, but I must give it a watch.
With Sam and Dean, I highly recommend, man. They're pretty cool. They just go around killing everything, and it's wild, killing ghosts, but they do it. It's a good show, man. Yeah. So back to it, being into cryptids and paranormal like I am, I have to ask you, I know you're in Ireland, and that's like the leprechaun and fairy hotspot, man. Could you go into that a little bit and give us some details on some of if they're the same or what about it?
I suppose in the British Isles, you've got things like the Coblin in Wales, or the Coblin's also associated with Welsh settlements in America. Then you've got the Brownie in Scotland. Then you've got obviously in America, you've got the Knocker as well, otherwise known as the Tommy Knocker. In Ireland, we got obviously the Banshee, we've got leprechauns, we have tales of changelings, which is interesting. Kind of linked to like these kind of devilish kind of unbaptized children being brought down into our realm. Also, we've got the Pucker, very well known, not just in Ireland, but also in England and the Channel Islands. But they're just a few of the fairies there that are mostly associated with. There's been a lot of cases in the past, I suppose, 100 years past couple of 100 years of tales of the changing, which is very interesting, which I could talk about more if you're interested about.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm definitely into the changeling. That interests me. That piqued my interest. So you said it's like a devilish, more of a devilish
Well,
type.
yeah, a lot of people would suppose that there's a lot the changing. I suppose came in. It's been for a good few hundred years there, But I suppose there's cases of it coming up in. I suppose there's the case of Michael Cleary, 4-year-old child, that not too far from me, was drowned in the River Flesk by
Yeah.
supposedly probably his mother, Honora Leary. Uh, and a friend called Mary Clifford, and they went to a lady called Anne Roach for help because their 4-year-old child could not speak or stand up for itself. So the cure was given by Anne Roach to bathe the child every 3 days in the River Flesk, or every day in the River Flesk. So they went and did that. Honora and Mary did that. On the third day, though, they went a bit too far, and what came out in the county and the trial was that the drought they put the child under the water for too long.
Right. I get what you're saying.
We don't, it's hard. Anne Roach, anyway, who gave the advice, you could say was a wise woman of fairy knowledge, was put on trial in the Kerry County Court. And I think they got away with murder. I think they got away with murder because of that time they believed in what they were doing. There was justice for what they were doing. It's now Michael Leary's 200-year anniversary
Oh
next year.
wow.
So this happened in 1826. But there was cases of this happening all over Ireland and Kerry. Babies being roasted to death. It was kind of a familiar sight. So the fairies are. It was blamed that Michael was a changeling fairy. There's always a backstory to these fairy stories and an excuse as well to do things. Like there's things that have happened with people, unfortunately, commit suicide, people that have had mental issues, people that don't fit into the community that they were in, and also people that have been abused, that the society would call them fairy touched or struck by the fairies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to be honest, yeah, so it's like a devil's kind of form of child that was brought into the world. And I suppose, as it said, it could be to do with anything like appearance of how a baby was. There might be disfigurement, it might be the way, unfortunately, people look like back down centuries, their Down syndrome as well, or people that children or babies that didn't look fit the bill. And
right.
There was an excuse to call them something like that and put them somewhere else, Unfortunately, those were the circumstances there, But changing, there was another story with changing with Bridget Cleary and her husband, Michael Cleary. Now, they lived in a cottage in County Tipperary. The year is 1895. Nice little countryside by the Slieve Bloom Mountains. Bridget was an independent woman. She was made her own clothes. She went around the neighbouring houses selling eggs. She had an interest in a nearby fort called Killarney Fort. She used to visit it a lot. And I suppose she was the main earner of the family. So that was kind of like, this is a bit weird. She had no children as well. Her and her husband, Michael, had no children. Anyway, she went out one day. She went to Killarney Fort. She came back ill. I think it was the 4th of March, 1895. She came back ill. She was visited by a physician, gave Michael, her husband, medicine for Bridget to take, and gave her the diagnosis that she had bronchitis. Michael refused to give her the medication, the cure, the meds, and sought another person, a friend of his, I think it's Jack Donald's his name. He was known to be well acquainted with fairy lore. And he said that Bridget went up to the fort and was changed over to the fairy world and became a changeling. So Michael took this upon himself, refused to give Bridget the medication, or another person I think it was Dennis Gainey, fairy expert, and I think he gave the potions. He gave an alternative kind of cure. Days led up. A physician came again on the 13th of March, 1895, said she should get the last rites. Her father, Cornelius Ryan, arrived, gave her the last rites. In the intervening time, the hours before her death, she was subjected to urine being poured over her because she wasn't taking this medication that the fairy law expert was given to Michael. She also was struck with a red hot poker on her face. Obviously, the family were there. The father was there, Patrick, Bridget's father. Members of her family were there witnessing all this, and they still did not come in and stop this from happening. They let Michael go ahead. The final straw was Michael put kerosene all over Bridget and Sarah alive. So it's a very sad story.
Yeah.
Anyway, afterwards, Michael buried the body a few miles away. The police went on the search. They found the body. Michael went up to the fort. Now, this is how it's kind of really interesting. Michael went up to the fort and stayed there for 3 days waiting for Bridget to arrive because he thought the cause of her death would make Bridget return again.
Right.
Obviously, she never returned.
Right.
So on the 22nd of March, her body was found. They went to trial with 9 other people, and he was only found guilty of manslaughter, not murder, because he believed, and those that were there around him believed in what they did was justice. What was interesting was Bridget's body. Apart from her body, all the rest of her remains were burnt. Her head was like untouched, still remained. Beauty, it was still there.
Yeah.
And she was buried at night time in a grave in County Tipperary.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it's just because these people said they were experts in fairies, and so they just murdered.
Well, I suppose it was a lot of excuses. There's a lot of excuses to believe in fairies, and there's a lot of things outside of the box that with people, as I mentioned, like mental health,
Right.
people looked, or they're just people that didn't fit into society that they would. One way of attributing someone to have been struck by fairies, and one way kill them off or bury them or murder them without being seen, and they've just vanished. These people believed to be fairies.
It's kind of like the Salem witch trials. They just whoever. If you made your neighbor mad, they could, hey, he's a witch or she's a witch, and there was no really way to prove you weren't. I mean, I read one where they're like, just throw them in the river if they can survive. They're not witch, or they're witches, and it's like, well, you're not going to win. You survive, you're a witch, and if you don't survive, well, you weren't. Oh, I guess we're
not going to survive.
Yeah, we'll take the loss. I guess it's human history is very. You could definitely tell we came a long way from where we were to back then. And it's like the werewolf trials in France. If you look into those, I covered them, but they talk about. They would beat these men mercilessly until they would finally say, yes, I'm a werewolf. I did all these things. I ate all these kids. And, me being a believer in werewolves, I think some of them might have been like Peter Stump. I really think that man was a werewolf, but the rest of them, I don't know. It's.
Yeah. There was a lot of, there was person werewolf trials, and there was animals. Wolf trials as well, dogs and all that, wolves as well.
And I read one guy, he was they even said in his like trial paperwork that he was mentally handicapped. So that's why they didn't kill him. So they sent him off to live in a monastery, and some guy went to visit him. Forgot who he was. He was a big figure back then, and he said the guy still walked around like he was a wolf on all fours, would only eat like garbage, and he finally died thinking he was a werewolf. And I'm like, yeah, because they beat him. Like he was already mental to begin with, and then but the changeling thing, that is crazy that they.
If you tell somebody enough that they're this kind of being, they're going to believe it in some sort of ways. I am this. If you really drill it into them, then they will. It's like brainwashing,
right?
Then they think they are as well.
And that's crazy. So, man, that kind of baffled me. The changeling stories, those were intense. I did not expect that. So, did you see the video? I don't know if it was in Ireland. I don't know where it was at, but the guy found a tree and he cut it in half, and there was nothing but coins in it. And a lot of people were saying that was like a fairy tree or leprechaun tree, that he shouldn't have touched the coins. He should have just left them there, but he was like just taking them because it was, it was huge. It was like a 5 foot, 6 foot round tree, and it was full to the top with coins. do you think that could have been like a fairy type? Put it in there, or do you like?
Yeah, I suppose with nature has a way of, I suppose, deceiving us. There, I suppose in that way, that I haven't heard of that story, but that account. But I wouldn't say, I wouldn't put it past of it happening. I suppose there would be coins inside trees because maybe the
Right.
tree overgrew in time over centuries and got overgrowth as well to hide
Yeah.
this. So yeah.
And this was a recent video. The guy videoed him. Yeah, it's recent. It's not old. It's recent. But some of the coins are from like Roman times.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what led me down the leprechaun, the fairy lore, and it's really hard to find stuff about them.
Mm,
Like like Bigfoot, you can find people that are researchers and book writers and stuff like that. Same with werewolves, vampires, pretty much every cryptid you can find. But leprechauns and
mm,
fairies is one that's they
mm,
have the big book of fairies that you can read, and it tells you about all different ones.
mm.
But that's really it, and it's always interested me since I was saw the movie Leprechaun back
Yeah,
in.
it's. I suppose with leprechauns, there's a gentleman up in the north, just below the border of Northern Ireland, that he's one of the last surviving leprechaun uh, speakers, writers, I think. So he's the only one that can speak to the leprechauns where he is. And I remember him saying that there's the amount of people that they're not willing to talk to our race anymore, our humans like anymore. To be honest, like in fairies, do I believe them? Probably there's a lot of them that hide the truth behind loads of things.
Right.
And it's romanticized in the last 20, 30 years, even more. With, you could say Lord of the Rings, and you could say with Disney as well, So, but it's a heritage. I suppose it's in our DNA as much as we say in our there to be believing these kind of beings as well.
Right. And like you said, it has definitely been romanticized, and I don't think and I don't know why, because all those stories that you do read, they're not like perfect love tales of these beautiful beings. They're usually like pictures,
Yeah,
like,
there's one that's interesting thing I could talk about is like Colleens. These were these like kind of mounds. You might see these pictures of mounds with trees or hedges around. These are burial places of now they're known to be known for being fairy places, but the real truth is these are the places of unbaptized children, fetuses, people who've committed suicide, um, people that traveled into an area as strangers, and as soon as they've died, there've been all these kind of dramas of people being buried in this area. Now, because they can't be buried in consecrated ground, they're put into this area, often buried at darkness, so nobody takes any notice of them. That's why it's kind of, these fairies were invented to stop people going over to these mounds, these
mhm.
particular spaces, to stop people. No, it's like an own personal graveyard.
Right.
And when you look at these places, well, they were put on the outskirts of towns, near rivers, so people wouldn't get to see them. They were outside the boundaries of parishes. So the church, only until the 1960s, accepted that children that died in childbirth were allowed and were able to be buried alongside their loved ones.
Wow. And so, man, that's sad.
Mm.
That's very sad that took that long. Man, it's a very sad history, and you look at a
Yeah,
lot of stuff like that, and it kind of threw me off. Um,
yeah.
so to get back on track with you, what are you're an author, so can you give us some of the books that you've written or you're working on and stuff like that?
Well, I'm working on the third book at the moment, and all the books, the previous two, is just based on what we do as GhostÉire. We're investigating locations. So it's to do with there's different areas of the country that we go to. We do a story behind how we go to the location, the journey to it, the adventure. Then we write about the actual investigation, and then we write up the history at the end of that chapter, that location, and then we put down the results of what we found in that location. Um, it's we've hoping to get the third book in another few years' time. It's taken so long because the life has got chaotic,
Right,
you know.
right.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing. We put footage along with the book so people can see it, the QR code or a DVD. They can see the actual footage of the investigation. 12 chapters per book. We've written 2 books so far. and hopefully another third one in a few years' time.
That's awesome. Where can people find them at? Like what website or stuff like that?
Charity shop. I'm only joking. I've seen it up. I've seen it a good few places. It's on manuscript publisher. The manuscript publisher is the gentleman Oscar Duggan published it for us. They were the main people. He's the main person to go to there, where the book is on site there to buy. You can buy it on our website www.ghostére.net as well. But it's in a few bookshops. Because we release one after the other, the first and the second will come out again. And the third one comes out there.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
so.
That's pretty cool though. So you do, so when you go to these places, you're doing your research before you get there. And then even after you've left, you're doing all the research on everything. Even like some of your findings, you're like, oh, I heard this, or I seen this, or this is why people are saying this. Do you know a little bit about the, I'm sure you do, but I have to ask because I looked into it. The prison out there, they say, is really haunted. It was off on the island. I can't think of the name.
Yes. So are you talking about Fortress Spike Island or Spike Island? Yeah.
Yeah, Spike Island.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been out there?
Oh yeah, we were over there originally in 2000, and we did an investigation on the island itself. We got permission from the council to do it. Then we were back there in 2018, I think it was 2018, to do the actual prison itself. Might be earlier than that, so I forget that. But yeah, it's a massive location there. I think I forget now what the length of it there. I think it's I forget now how many acres. That's 20 odd acres. But it's secluded at night, apart from security guards and probably the odd watchman there, you know. But there used to be families that lived over there. It was on the outskirts of the island, on the shoreline. There used to be families that lived there, but that's stopped now. I think they moved back over in the early 2000s, and that's when it operated as a prison. But it's stopped now. It's a tourist site, and people can visit it during the day. I think they can still visit at night. Paranormal groups can still visit at night there, but I think it's the price of things have just gone up a bit too much.
Yeah, like everything, everything just going up. What? Give us like one legend that comes out of Spike Island. I know I've done some research on it, but I don't know if some of my listeners, they might not know what it is. Can you give us like one legend, like ghost legend out there?
Yeah, there's a story of a ghost named the Gunner, which is supposed to appear. Now I think it was seen in the 1920s by a watchman. I think it was from by a soldier in the Free State Army, which is kind of the Irish National Army there at the time. And I think he saw this soldier leaping over a wall, this kind of figure leaping over a wall, and his eyes, I think, were sunken in. And he started, because he looked like a person and he shouldn't be there, he started shooting at him.
Oh, wow.
I think that's the story. But the bullets just went through him, and then he vanished and disappeared. Now, I'm not too sure if that was the story, but I think that's what's coming into my mind. Anyway, so I'm probably looking at it. But his definite name is the Gunner. Anyway, and this apparition of this soldier-like figure is seen regularly there. What we got there was a lot of, I think there was a lot of medical experiments done there, a few medical experiments. What we got there is also there people with limbs missing. And what we found out afterwards, there was gunpowder used on the island, obviously originally just to break up the rock and just to make it more, easy to get the star-shaped fort structured. So that's what came in our investigation now. But it's an interesting spot, Spike Island now. You know,
that is pretty interesting. That is a very interesting spot. Yeah, I think I'm going to try to do a little cover on it. Try my best. But it's one of the many things. Like I'll read something and then I'm like, oh, I got to cover this one, or I'll read it and I'm like, oh, maybe I can find somebody who knows something. It's just, especially all over the world, man. There's just so much haunted history.
Yeah.
Or cryptids or anything like that. There's something into it, and somebody somewhere knows about it. And I like to ask just want to know. Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask, are there any Irish cryptid legends that you know of or anything like that?
Yeah, there's one not too far from me. There's a serpent called Mucky, because it's named Mucky because there's a place called Muckross in the national park that we are. and it's in the lakes of Ireland, lakes of Killarney, sorry, the lakes of Killarney. A well-known cryptid investigator, researcher, Jonathan Downes of England, came over. I think it was the early 2000s, and he came over and videoed what looked like a serpent in the water in the lower lakes moving around. Now, there was probably the eels reported in that probably lake, and whether it's this overgrown kind of sized eel. But many people don't know there's seals, other seals that show up frequently in the lake as well. So they show up. People don't. They might associate that with some type of sea monster as well. But because this is a very deep lake, the deepest lake in Ireland, I think there was a Japanese scientific team that came over and surveyed the water, and they came up with microorganisms or organisms coming up from Ice Age in the actual water because it's so cold down there. They were there from the Ice Age. But that's just one story of the sea serpent, like Loch Ness monster in our lake, and its name is Mucky. Now, it might be something I'd be interested to go and look into personally, because I do like what you said, doing cryptozoology.
Cryptids, I love cryptids, man. Those are my favorite. Yeah. Oh gosh, Bigfoot, werewolves, vampires, chupacabras, you name it, I'm trying to go after it. And that's something that I always tell people about when they ask me about the podcast. They're like, man, you do a lot more ghosts than cryptids. And like, yeah, but it's because most people, it's hard to get them to open up about their cryptids, but I'm struggling to get people to open up about their ghost experience, not just cryptid experience. Some people, they just, I'll get messages all day, hey, I don't want to talk about this happened. I don't want to talk about this happened. And I'm like, I can read it. Do you want me to read it? No, it's okay. I just wanted to tell you about it. I'm like, all right, that's fine. That's cool.
As you said, Brett, there, everything amalgamates or interchanges with each other. Vampires, alien, extraterrestrial, Bigfoot, fairy lore. It's all kind of amalgamated in ghosts. It's all can.
Yeah, I think so. And my thing is, and I've also ran into people that believe in one and not the other. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. You can't believe in Bigfoot and not believe in ghosts. But I guess if that's, that's your thing, that's your thing. But me, I think everything's out there. It's just, I'm trying to find the proof, I guess, on a computer screen and trying to get people to come out and say, hey, this happened to me. But
that's the holy grail.
Yeah, right. It's hard. And then you throw in conspiracies on top of that and it gets wild, but I haven't touched on too much of those, but that's neither here nor there. But I appreciate you coming on, man. If you want to shout out your socials and all that, and I'm going to link them in the description of the video. So if you want to go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, and all that good stuff.
Thank you, Brett. Okay, so our website where you'll find everything is www.GhostÉire.net. So that's ghost as in ghost and era is in Ireland, E for the IRE. And that's our website. Yeah, we're also on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We're not on TikTok. We don't do that sort of thing. So, so those are the main sites there. And thank you, Brett, for having me.
Oh, no problem, man. I appreciate you coming on. And that's it for tonight, everyone. If you want to be on the show, shoot me an email. The email address is polarbearhoth@gmail.com. You can reach out to me on TikTok and Instagram, polarbearhoth, or check out the Facebook page, Highway of the Hidden. Y'all have a wonderful night, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye. Later, Anthony. Appreciate it, brother.
Go, Margaret. Slow. Cheers. Bye, everyone.